Hi everyone. A gentle reminder to you all, please mute your mic so that everybody can hear the session. Okay, we will get started now. Okay, so if you have any questions, please remember to use the chat and we will respond to you. In today's webinar, we are going to discuss the secret of network penetration test. This is the third session organized by Condition Zebra. My name is Aisha and I'm going to be your trainer for this session. Here is the agenda for today. We will be discussing what is network penetration test, tools required, how to perform the test. Please remember to mute the session here. Okay. Okay, so we will be discussing what is network penetration test, tools required, how to perform vulnerability analysis, and then we will learn how to use Nmap and Metasploit. Please note that the techniques we are going to learn today can be used on any type of device or operating system, which is relevant with particular adjustments. Before we get started, let us understand the core areas of network security. In network security, we give importance to maintain confidentiality, integrity, and availability at a balance. Okay, because a hacker can try to compromise our system by accessing confidential information, modifying the values, or crushing our system. So we need to maintain all these three values at a balance. And before we go deep down into technical terms, we want to understand some basic items first. So they are listed down over here. The first one is the attacker or hacker or adversary who is going to cause harm to our resources. Our resources can be our devices, systems, services, our network, it can be anything. Okay, so basically when they want to compromise our architecture, they try to look for entry points, which is called as the attack vector. And then they try to look for weak entry points, because if something is very secure, they cannot go inside, right? So they look for vulnerabilities. Once they find a weak entry point, they look for a plan. What is the day or when they want to attack, all those things. They come up with a working strategy. And after they come inside our network, what are the activities they want to do? We call it as payload. So, of course, there is no system which is 100% bulletproof. There will be always systems which have vulnerabilities. But we are not going to be attacked every day at any time, right? So the possibility the attack can happen is called as the threat. So if we don't patch our systems, what are the losses we will face is called as the risk. Okay, now we are going to compare the process used by a hacker and a pen tester. A hacker is basically going to collect information about our network, and then they are going to run scanners. After they've identified the systems of their interest, what they try to do is they try to gain control of some of our resources. Once they do that, they want to maintain the access. Then they try to cover the track. So they try to cover the tracks, meaning they don't want to get caught. So they try to erase the fact that they actually compromise our system. Okay, so a pen tester also performs the same things. Please remember to mute your mic so that everybody can hear me. Okay, so a pen tester also performs the same things. They also conduct information gathering and vulnerability analysis. Okay, so please remember to mute your mic so that the session can go on without interruption. Thank you. Okay, so but unlike a hacker, a pen tester won't stop only after finding one particular item. If a hacker want to compromise, they just try to find one entry point and then they stop there. But a pen tester has to list down all the possible ways in which a network can be compromised or exploited. Okay, and they do a finally important task called preparing the report. So let's assume a thief wants to break into our house. So obviously they have a bad intention. They will just look for an easy way to come inside our house. But for example, we may try to like we may forgot to close our door or window or something like that. Okay, so they may try to come inside our house and do something which is not intended. All right, now try to reverse the role. So we are the owner of the house. We want to make sure nobody breaks into our house. So we have to think like a thief and find all the weak entry points. Maybe we have a broken window, maybe the lock is old or broken. That is an easy sliding door for the hacker to go inside. So we need to think like a thief, and we need to protect our all the entry points, right? So this is what a pen tester does. So for a thief, finding one entry point is sufficient, but for a pen tester, we need to look for all the possible ways, and we need to secure each one of them. Okay, so basically hacker is bad and pen tester is good. Okay, so a penetration test is actually an authorized process, meaning the system owner gives permission to the tester. Okay, and usually the agreement is in written format. We call it as non-disclosure agreement, and the tester will follow all the rules given by the company or the system owner to identify the vulnerabilities, and they try to exploit the vulnerabilities. So when it comes to different processes, right? Basically, there are different ways of doing the processes. Some people do simply an automated scan. We call it as vulnerability analysis. Then after we run the scanner, if we are going to review the findings to identify which is the actual problem, we call it as vulnerability scanning. In pen test, we conduct vulnerability scanning first, and then we do the manual testing to exploit them further. This is how pen test and other processes are different. And pen test also has got different names like intrusion detection, red teaming, and most popularly it is also called as penetration testing with Kali. Because Kali Linux is an open source software which is widely used for conducting pen tests. So let me show you the latest version of Kali. Here I'm using version of this year 2020. If you have used the older versions, you might have noticed the username and password is root and tour. Okay, so if you are going to use the latest version, you have to remember that the root user is no longer available in the latest version. So your username and password will be Kali. Okay, so I'm going to log into my VM here. Okay, so after you log in, you can see that the applications which are needed for conducting tests or any other activities is pre-configured, so that it is very easy for anybody to get started with pen test. It can be a hacker, it can be a pen tester, it can be anybody. So I'm going to open the terminal emulator now. So this is the equivalent of command prompt in our Windows computer. Okay. So there is no root user, so I'm trying to elevate my permissions first. Okay, so now I'm going to show you a basic example. I'm going to run the command called ifconfig, which means I'm trying to pull the information about the interface. So you can see my IP address is listed on over here. Okay, so if you have used on Windows command prompt, you might have noticed the command is ipconfig. So for example, if you are using Windows computer, the command you will be using is ipconfig to fetch your IP address. Okay. So there are different tools in Kali Linux. It may be a bit confusing if you are a beginner. So in case you want to learn more about it, what you can do is you can use the option -h to pull out the help file, because everything is a command here and there are different options. And during our session, I will be showing you few software. I won't be able to explain all the available options inside. So you may have to learn further on your own. Okay. So the other options to fetch the help file are you can give double hyphen and help. Okay, and next option is if you think this is too short, you can go and check the manual. So I'm using man and the program name. Okay, so this is a detailed documentation. There are example commands, all those stuff given over here to understand how to use the software. If you want to continue reading, you can press space or just scroll using your mouse. If you are done reading, you can press Q to exit the panel. Okay, so this is how we use the Linux software. All right. Okay, so when it comes to attacking the systems, right, the hacker will always try to find different ways to come inside our network. So the first one is the external threat. So these are the list of external threats a hacker can use to come inside our network actually. So it can be a person, it can be an organization. They don't have proper authorization to access our resources, but they try to use internet or some other services which are publicly available to compromise our systems. Okay, so the next one is once they harm the system, sometimes they can also publicly disclose the information, and it will look like we are weak to the users. Okay, so second type of attack is called a structured threat. Okay, so structured threat is like the hackers is like a very skillful hacker, so they know what they are doing basically. And unstructured hacker is someone who uses the publicly available tools like password cracker, all those stuff, and then they try to take over our systems. Okay, and the last but not the least, the most difficult to find is the internal threat. These are our employees. They have access to particular resources, so they try to misuse the permission, and most of the time this hacking goes undetected, and almost more than 50% of attack is happening due to the employees trying to misuse the permission. Okay, so when it comes to performing tests, right, we should have a proper foundation. The more information we know, the more attacks and better results we can perform actually. So as a pen tester, we have to do a lot of learning, reading, and practice. You can refer to any of the website over here and do your research. And apart from this, we will be using a lot of tools for conducting a pen test. We will show some example today. If you are willing to learn further, you can refer to any of the open source tools here or the commercial tools which are listed on over here. Okay. All right. So when it comes to scanning tools, right, the scanners basically rely on TCP flags. So the TCP flags are listed on over here. So there are 6 of them in total, and each of them has got a different purpose. What the scanner basically does is it tries to send different types of flags to the target machine and determine whether a particular item is open or available or what kind of service is running over there. Okay, and as a pen tester, we should also know about the most commonly used ports, because when we look at the port number, if we don't know what kind of service it is like uh, a hiccup. We don't know how to proceed further. Okay, so for instance, this image here shows about the different types of Nmap scans. Nmap is actually a software used for performing port scanning processes. So you can see the scanning, there are different options like this. We try to customize them to get different results actually. So they try to send different types of packets to the target destination and try to determine if the particular item is available or not. The main reason we are discussing about this is, if you have followed our previous sessions, we discussed about web application vulnerability using the top 10 OWASP items, right? There is no such top 10 vulnerability for network penters. So here we have to manually identify a few items like which machine is running in the network, what kind of services or port numbers are open on the particular computer. Then we have to determine whether there is a vulnerability or not. Then we will try to exploit them or compromise the computer. So in order to do this, I'm going to use the software called Nmap. So let me show you how to do it. Okay, so I'm going back to my Kali Linux. So inside my Linux, I am going to use the option called Nmap. So if you are willing to know about the help document, you can actually refer to the help document like this and you can read. Okay, so my IP address, I'm going to find it out first because I want to know in which IP range I am right now. So as you can notice, it is 192.168.0.140. So I'm going to check how many other systems are available in the same network range. So in order to do this, I can just specify a range of IP address over here. So for example, I want to scan from 150 until 160. Okay, so I'm going to add a tag called -v for verbose. I want to see in real time how many IP addresses it can find. So I can just scan like this. So basically what Nmap does is it tries to give a ping command and check whether the particular IP address is turned on or not. Okay, so if the host is up and running, then it will try to scan.
So with TCP action.
So basically, when it finds out that a particular IP address is up and running, it will try to look for the most commonly used ports to see whether the particular system is running or not. Okay, so like here, you can see my system is running here. So this is how a hacker will try to find the list of IP addresses in the particular network. And once they find a suitable IP address they want to attack, right, there are different ways to do the attack. So let me tell you that, okay, this is my Kali Linux and I am using IP address 140 ending with 140. This is going to be my attacker computer going forward. And this is my victim. My victim is Windows 7. You can see it is ending in 190. Okay, so these techniques can be used for any type of devices. All right. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for open ports. So as you may all know, there are more than 65,000 ports in our computer, right? So I'm going to check whether the port numbers are available or not. So I'm going to give my target IP address, and then I don't want to waste my time by pinging the IP because I already know the computer is turned on and it is in a working condition. So I want to scan for all the port numbers. I can give the command like this, -p-. Okay, so if you want to see the result in real time, you can also add the tag -v. Okay, so just wait for the result. So you can see now it is scanning for 65,535 ports. Okay, so when it finds an open port, it will try to list down the information over here. So after we find a particular port number is available for us, what we have to do is we have to find what type of service is running over there, because sometimes the network administrators manually configure a service to run on different port numbers. Okay, so I'm going to stop the scan now using Control C. I can see that there is a port number called 445-3389. So I'm just going to run a version scan and on top of this. So in order to do this, I will go and specify the port numbers of my choice. So for example, 445-3389. Now I want to run a version scan. So I give -s and capital V. All right. So now it is only targeting these two port numbers. You can see the comparison. Last time it was scanning for all the 65,000 port numbers, whereas now it is only focusing on these two particular port numbers of my choice. So once it can find the version details, it will tell me what kind of service is running over there. So in general, we know that port number 445 is used for SMB service. Okay. So after we find a port number, we need to look for the vulnerabilities. Okay. So in order to do it, we have to find something called a script. So the Nmap actually has its own scanning engine. If you want to look for the location of the files, you can just give the locate command and the target search field you want to give. So I'm going to give locate Nmap. So you can see there are lots of places with the Nmap word inside my computer. So here, this is the script I want. So I just want to filter the item I need. So I'm going to add a filter using regular expression scan. So I'm giving grep and I'm going to filter scripts. So when I introduce a pipe symbol in Linux, what happens is the output of the first command becomes the input of the second command. So now it is going to filter Nmap and only show me the results where the script word is available. Okay. So you can see there are so many scripts, but I don't want to run all the scripts. I have a target port in my mind. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add one more grep symbol here. So I'm going to grep for let's say SMB, for instance. So I'm just going to look for this. So as you can see, there are some enumeration scripts, some version scripts, all those stuff. I want to look only for vulnerabilities so that I can compromise the system. So what I'm going to do is I am going to see the common words here is SMB vulnerability. So I'm going to give a command with a wildcard symbol so that I can run all the vulnerability scans only. Okay. I go back to Nmap. So in Nmap, I'm going to give the tag called script. So I want to run all the vulnerability scans, which is starting with the word SMB vulnerability on the target IP address. My IP address target is 190. Okay, and I'm focusing only on port number 445. So I specify that as well. Okay, so I give V for verbose. Okay, so now it is going to run the script scans, whatever is starting with the name SMB vulnerability on my IP address, the target victim over here, and the port number 445. And you can see some of the scans are returning result as false. Some don't have permission to run. Okay, so all the things are here, and you can also notice that it also shows it is vulnerable. If you think that Nmap console is too complicated for you, what you can do is you can also use the GUI called Nmap. You have to manually install this. It is supported for all the types of operating system, so you can easily configure this and you can use the GUI to do the stuff. So if you think that this is also not very happy for you, you can go for vulnerability scanning. So I'm going to show you an example using a scanner called Nessus. So Nessus is having two types of versions. One is the for a trial version, another one is the license version. Okay, so I am using license version over here. So you can see Nessus Professional. I'm going to log in with my username and password. And once you install Nessus, it will work on the port number 8834 by default. Okay, so I'm going to sign in. Okay. After you sign in, you will be on the My Scans page. So when you want to trigger a scan, you have to choose this option called New Scan. Okay, so there are a few options based on the subscription you have taken. You will have a few items available for you. I'm going to run advanced scan. Okay, so you can give a name over here. So let's say I'm giving, I'm testing Windows 7. So I give testing Windows 7. I am allocating the target IP address over here. So the target IP address is 190. Okay, so after I allocate the name and the IP address of my target, what I'm going to do is I go to discovery and I disable the ping option because I already know the machine is up and running. And Nessus will by default scan only few port numbers. I want to scan for all the port numbers, so I need to change this keyword to all. Once you're done with the configuration, you can just go down here and select launch. Okay. So once the scan is launched, it will take you back to my scans page. You can see the green color loop here, which is showing us running. Once the scan is completed, you can see the completed symbol like the tick mark over here. So in order to save time, I'm going to show you the previously done scan result. Okay, so here is the result. You can see the vulnerabilities are categorized using different severity, critical, high, medium, and low. So I'm going to select the vulnerability listing over here. So there are some items which are individual, some are grouped. So I'm going to the first group. You can see there are some vulnerabilities. So the vulnerabilities will have unique numbering system over there. Okay. So basically, the vulnerabilities have two types of naming system. First one is starting with letter MS, which means Microsoft found the problem, and for 2 digits following the letters is the particular year in which the problem was identified, and each problem will have a unique number. Okay. And let's open the different types. So next one is called a CVE. So CVE basically stands for Common Vulnerabilities and Exposures. So this is like a repository. So what is happening is like after a person, individual, researcher, or the company finds a problem, they will try to patch it. Once it is patched, they will report it to the public. Okay, so it is maintained publicly as a repository. So the CVE also has got a numbering system. The 4 digits tell in which year the problem was identified, and they also have a unique number to represent each problem. So you can go to the websites listed down over here to see the results, for example. So here I'm showing you how to search for a particular option. You can actually go to the search box and look for a vulnerability. So the main reason we look for this is we come to know which target operating system or platform is vulnerable for the particular item. As you can see, the vulnerabilities are listed here, and how the attack works, all those things we can find. And most of the vulnerabilities actually have...
No, not yours.
Please remember to mute your mic. Thank you. Okay, so most of the vulnerabilities actually work on different operating systems and platforms. We can learn how to exploit the system using this type of technique. And when the vulnerability details are documented, they also tell you whether this can be remotely compromised or not, which means if your network is able to reach the particular IP address, then we can actually compromise the whole system. All right. So here you can see that there's also one more information called Metasploit module. Okay, so the Metasploit module tells us that this particular system can be exploited using Metasploit software. Okay, so let me show you how to use Metasploit. Okay. So if you want to start Metasploit, you can actually use commands on the Kali terminal. Okay. So Metasploit is a software sponsored by Rapid7. This is an open source software. There is also a licensed version of this available. This is used for developing exploitation software and also exploiting the systems. Okay. So if you want to start Metasploit, you can give the command msf console. Once you start it, you will see that there are some modules available inside, and each module has got its own purpose actually. So for instance, auxiliary can be used for information gathering purposes, exploit is for planning an attack, and payload is the actual code that we customize to run on the system once we attack it. Okay, when we are creating the payload, we want to make sure that our payload is not compromised or it is not detected by the security software solutions like antivirus. So we use encoders, and to create the payload of consistent size, we use no operations. Okay, so let me show you how it works in Linux. So over here, I'm going to type MSF console. Okay. So when you start Metasploit, it will actually load some random image, and then it will show you the version number of the Metasploit, and then it will show you how many modules are there, and each item has got how many numbers over there, which means how many exploit is available for you. All those information will be listed on over here, so you can see the information here. Okay, and you can see the command line has changed to the version number of MSF. Okay, so let's compare it. So when you open a terminal, you will be under your username. So now you can see when I open Metasploit, it is having a different prompt over here. Okay. Okay, so the commands which we use on terminal will no longer work here. All right. So in order to learn what type of commands are applicable inside this prompt, you can just use the command called help. Okay, so these are the commands which you can basically run inside the Metasploit. Okay, so to summarize it, I have also documented some popularly known commands for you here. So if you want to search for a particular item, you can use the keyword called search. If you want to know information about a particular item, you can give info. To use a module, we will give the command use. Each item over here is basically a program given by a security researcher or developer. So if we want to know how to configure it and do an attack, we will give the command called show options. To allocate a value, we will use the set command. If you made a typo, you want to remove the value, then you will give unset. To run an exploit command, you can give the command called exploit. If you think you are in a wrong location, you want to go back, you can use the back command. So let's see how to use it first. Going back to Metasploit here. Okay. So I'm going to search for one of the vulnerabilities. So last time we were searching for the Metasploit Microsoft vulnerabilities using Nmap scan. So I'm just going to search for MS17010. Okay. So when we search for a particular keyword, you can see that the auxiliary, exploit, whatever modules have got this particular keyword will basically come inside. All right. So the search result will have all the values. Okay. So if you want to use exploit, you can actually choose exploit. You want to do auxiliary scanning, you can actually do that. Okay. So let's say I want to do a particular scan. So I copy this value, then I will give use. Okay, so once you give use command, you can see the prompt is actually changing. Okay, so this way you know where you are right now. If you think you don't want to use this anymore, you can just give the back command and you can go back. So you can see the prompt is actually changing. All right. So if you want to learn the information about a particular module, you can just give the command like this. So you can give info. Information about the particular module, what type of attack or the auxiliary it is, who found it, what are the configuration required to make it run, when was it identified, all the researching stuff, everything is grouped together here. Okay, so I'm going to run the scan again. I search for it. So I'm going to choose one of the exploits to attack the Windows system. So I copy this. Okay, so once I am inside, I want to know what are the values I need to allocate so that I can attack my computer, the target machine. So I give show options. Okay, so you can see there is one value called rhost. So to summarize, so I'm using my Kali machine. This is the attacker. My IP address is 192.168.0.140. All right. So when you see the variable names over here, the variable name will usually contain two types in most of the cases. First one is the letter with the L, which means it is listener host or listener port number. All right. So if you see the value starting with letter L, you have to allocate something based on your Kali machine. Okay, if you are targeting your victim, so all the things related to your victim is remote, which means your remote machine is actually in a remote location. All right, so you will be giving the keyword with the letter R. Okay, so now I'm going to allocate my target IP address to this parameter. Okay, so I give set R host and then I give the IP address 190. Okay, after you set the values, if you think you want to make sure whether the value is properly allocated or not, what you can do is you can type the show options command again. Okay, and you can see the parameter is actually assigned here. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is the exploit is ready, right? So we are going to set a payload. So I want to know what payloads are applicable for this particular exploit. So I'm giving show payloads. Okay, this will pull out only the compatible payloads. Okay, so you can see I'm using Windows, so whatever is targeting for Windows will be listed on over here. Sometimes you can see the ranking is also allocated. If you see something like excellent, good, or something, someone has given a feedback based on their experience, you can try to go for it. So I'm going to use a popular payload, so I give set payload. So I'm allocating for Windows. So in Metasploit, there is a component called Metasploit. This is a flagship product. Okay, so this is very popular and it gives you better control. So I'm going to use one of the Metasploit payloads actually. So after you allocate a payload, you can run the show options command again, because previously we allocated parameters only for the exploit module. Now we have to allocate it for the payload module. So I give show options. As you can see, this is the value for the exploit, which we already configured. And now we have additional options for the payload. So here we need to allocate the host value. Okay, so if at any time you forgot your IP address, you can actually type ifconfig over here to pull out your IP address. After you know your IP address, you have to allocate it for the lhost. Lhost means listener host. My system, Kali Linux, is going to wait for incoming connections. Okay, so I'm going to allocate it. So I give say set lhost and then I'm allocating 0.14. All right, so after you set it, you can actually verify it one more round. So you can see my target is set. This is my victim, and then here is my listener host IP. So the L port value will be used for establishing the connection on the victim. So you have to make sure this particular port number is free and available for use. If the port number is busy, then your system will not be able to compromise the victim. And here you can see what are the targets which can be compromised by this particular program. Okay, so if at any time you want to see the list of options, you can also type the command called show targets. So if there are additional options, it will actually show you. So this particular program can only attack only these two. So Server 2008 and Windows 7. Sometimes you will see lots of ID over here, which tells you there are multiple target machines which can be exploited, which means there will be submodules inside the program that will be used for every particular type of operating system or device. Okay, so now what we are going to do is, since we have set everything, we can give the command called exploit in order to launch the attack. So we just have to wait for it to do the job. So basically this exploit module is running the auxiliary. It is cross-checking whether the target machine is vulnerable or not. You can see it shows it is likely vulnerable to the vulnerability MS17010. It has found the target operating system is Windows 7 Professional. Everything is listed on over here. It is also scanning for another type of vulnerability called double pulsar. Once the session is exploited, right? Okay, this is because I copied by mistake. Okay, so you can see that the IP address is 190, port number 445, because this is SMB based vulnerability. Once the session is created, we will get that session is created. All right. Okay, so you can see the session is opened. So from my IP address 140. All right, and then my port number is 8080. I have established a connection on the Windows machine with the IP address 190. It has picked some random port number to complete the connection. Okay, so now what we are going to do is we are going to look for the help command over here. As you see, I try to give clear. The clear command is not working anymore because I'm inside Metasploit, right? So these are the available options for me. So if at any time you are stuck and you want to know what options you have, you can type the command called help. So these are the core commands. Then you have more options like file system commands. All those things are listed on over here. Okay, so I'm going to demo some of the sample commands which are very helpful for us. The first one we can try to know is what are the processes running over there. So I can just type the command called ps to list down all the processes. Okay. So I run the command ps, so you can see all the processes which are running on the target Windows machine, from which path, all those details, with what permission, everything with the process ID is listed on over here. Okay, now if you want to see in which directory you are, you can type pwd. Pwd means print working directory. So I am inside C Windows System 32. All right. So if you want to list down the contents of this directory, you can give ls. So now it is trying to list down the values inside. So this will show the file names, directories, all those stuff. Okay. So in Linux, you can always see the read-write permissions, all the files, everything is listed on over here. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to run the help command again. Okay, so my target machine is basically running on a virtual box, so I won't be able to show you the web camera item. So if you want, you can actually try on a real computer, then you can see the web camera streaming can also be enabled. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a screen share. Okay, so for instance, I give screen share, enter. So now it is trying to prepare some screen share for me. Let's wait for a bit. Still trying to load. Okay, let me try to open it in a player because it's a bit slow. Okay, so I'm going to open another window and launch my Firefox to see the player. Let me copy the path again. Okay, so you can see the screen. So now I'm going to my Windows 7. Okay, so you can see whatever I do here is basically going to reflect over here. All right, so let's say I open a notepad and try to do something. Okay, so you can see whatever I do inside my Windows machine is basically working over here. So whatever I do, what applications I work, if I create a new file, all those stuff is going to be like a real live streaming actually. Okay, so this is one of the popular things you can do once you compromise a computer. Okay, so let me go back. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to look for particular files on the target computer. So in order to do this, you can actually see the help command over here. There is one option called search. So I'm going to use the search command. So this command will help us to look for a particular file inside the system. Okay, so I'm going to use the search command. So let's say I can see the command here, but I don't know how to use it. I can actually type help and the command name. Sometimes there will be options. If it is not available, it will tell you what is the right way to look for the help. So I can give search -h. So it is telling how to look for it. So I'm going to use -f for the pattern. So I give search -f. I want to look for PDF file names. So I give *.pdf. Okay. Which means any file which is starting with the which is having the extension PDF will basically come to me. It may have any name, but the extension will be PDF. Okay, still trying to fetch. So once the result is down, listed down over here, we can try to look for the interesting files and we can try to open the file. So for instance, I already tried to run the result. Let me look for it. Okay, the result is already up. So you can see some of the path is actually given over here. So I'm going to use the download command. Okay, so I give download C, and when you try to give the path, you have to add additional / because this particular directory makes no sense for the Linux terminal. So we have to give extra path here for extra /. So I give C XAMPP. I will just pick one of the items. Okay, let's say Mercury mail manual.pdf. So I try to download the file using the path. So now it is trying to download it and it is inside my system. So if you want to read the file, you can just go to your folder. So I'm going to, okay, so you can see my manual. It's already downloaded and it's inside my computer. Okay, so if you want to do further attacks, what you can do is, let's say if you want to see whether the user is idle or not, you can run commands like idle time. Okay, so another important item a hacker always does is they want to look for the usernames and passwords on the target system, so that even if one user is changing the password, they can try to use another user's password and maintain the access. So we can run a command called #dump. So this will fetch all the usernames and passwords from the SAM database and try to list it down to us. So this is a password hash. We can use online services to crack the password and we can maintain the access. Okay. So this is how we compromise the systems. So if you want to learn further, you can actually try to follow the commands over here to do the attack. Okay. So what we have done today is we have tried to find open ports using Nmap, and then we try to find vulnerabilities using Nmap. Okay. After that, we run the scanner called Nessus to find the vulnerabilities automatically. Once we did with that, we know that there are potential vulnerabilities to be exploited using remote code attack. In order to do it, we are using the software called Metasploit. So we use Metasploit, we launch it, and then we try to look for potential items inside it using the search command. Then we use the use command to take up a module, allocate values, whatever we want, and then we try to attack it. Okay. So here is a list of other services which Conditions Zebra is offering. So you can take a note of it. And if you have any questions, please feel free to post it in the chat box there and we will respond to you. So if you have any other inquiries about our services or any other items, you can always reach to us using our website, our email address, or our WhatsApp number. So let's go ahead and check your chat and respond to your questions. Okay, so this is the Q&A time, so you can try to post your questions and we will respond to you. So please post your questions. Yes, we will share the recorded video to you once the session is done. And please note that we also have an upcoming session next week. So the topic will be advanced network exploitation. So it will be on Tuesday as well, 3 o'clock. Any other question? Please remember to mute your mic. You can use the chat to type your questions. Yes, the method is same for public IP address as well. The particular attack will work for different types of operating system, which is dependent on the exploit code we are choosing actually. So one of you have asked about, will this work for Windows 10, Windows Server or not? So basically it is like you have to find a particular vulnerability and choose the appropriate module inside Metasploit and follow the same commands. You can try to exploit the particular item. If it is a public IP address, of course, it's very easy to attack. If it is internal IP address, then it is a bit complicated to gain access on the particular IP address first. Yes, we will share the link for registration for next week's session. So one of you have asked question about the event ID in Windows Server. So if you want to filter it, you can also use the event viewer. There is option to filter it out to check what type of event you want actually. Okay. Is there any different method to add Nmap command behind or front of the IP? Okay, so when you are running Nmap command, so let me open my command prompt. Okay, so when you're running Nmap, the command, the starting portion should be Nmap, and after this, you can actually put the options in different values. So for example, I give -p port number 445, and then I can give the IP address also. The order doesn't matter actually. So you can actually give like this, it will still work. Okay, so the only important thing to remember is the command nmap should be in the beginning, so the terminal knows what type of software you want to run. IPv6 scanning, right now, I don't think Nmap supports IPv6 scanning, but you can still use other scanners to use it actually. If you are very good in understanding TCP flags and you know how to program on your own, you can also build your own scanners. Yes, any other questions? So do you have any other questions? Parrot OS is also similar to Kali Linux. Actually, Kali Linux is not the only way to do pen test. This is mostly very popular because the dependencies is very little and the functionality is quite good and many people prefer to use because of the updates, all those things. So there are alternate options, open source available called Parrot, all those things. Parrot is a bit more colorful. If you want to customize Kali also, you can customize it. So if you just search online for Kali Linux alternatives, right, you can actually find there are quite a lot of other operating systems because it is open source, right? So people have given a lot of options. You can try to use them. Okay. Mostly it is all in Linux based because there is no license issue here. So they try to customize it based on the user experience, all those stuff. So if you want IPv6 scanners also, there is port scanning techniques for IPv6 scanners. You can actually check online and you can run the scans. Mostly IPv6 is used for mobile devices nowadays. Any other questions? So if you guys are interested in taking up a free vulnerability analysis, you can also contact our marketing team and we will arrange it for you. So if you guys are interested in getting your systems tested, we can help you actually. Any other questions? So if you have any other questions, you can actually post it in the chat. Thank you for joining the session as well. Okay. So if you guys don't have any other questions for now, you can, if you think of some other question, you can actually contact us later. We will respond to all your questions, okay? So we will share the recorded session with everybody once the session is done, okay? And we will see you next week on Tuesday, 3 o'clock. And the topic is advanced network exploitation. We thank you all for joining the session today. If you have any questions, you can feel free to post it or contact us with your questions. So if you have any other questions, please feel free to post it. So thank you all for joining the session today. We will see you guys next week. So if you have any questions, you can post it over here in the chat. So Metasploit works on internet. It is based on your configuration actually. So as long as you can reach the target machine, you can use it to attack it actually. So it doesn't matter whether the IP address is public or private. Metasploit also works on other platforms like Android, iOS. Yes, it works. Actually, you can just search inside Metasploit. So for instance, let me exit this session. And you can actually give search using the keyword whatever you are looking for. So for example, I'm going to search Android over here. So you can see there are payloads, exploits, auxiliaries for Android. So whatever you want, you can just use the search keyword to look for it. For antivirus detection, actually, we will use encoders to pack our payload so that the payload will not be detected by antivirus software. And Metasploit also introduced a new component called evasion technique. So evasion technique is basically for bypassing the antivirus detection. So as you can see in this slide here, on the bottom, there is something called evasion. This is still under construction. So far there are only 7 items inside this component. They are still building it. So you can actually try to protect your payload using encoders, and you can also use this evasion technique to bypass the antivirus detection. And if you are relying on antivirus to protect your computers, you have to maintain your antivirus up to date actually. So based on the antivirus program you are using, the results will change. So for instance, if you are looking for different types of antivirus, which one you want to use, what you can do is you can go to this website called avtest.org, because it is not easy to find or finalize a decision on which antivirus to use, right? So you can actually see the results over here. This is a third-party company. What they do is they try to analyze all the antivirus programs and tell you which antivirus is good. If the access is related to the credentials, you can try to do something based on the password cracking actually. So let's say there is something called FTP service or RDP service. You may have to find the password. You can use some password cracking tools to find the password first, and then only you can do the attack. Firewall is not the only way to protect a system actually. Firewall is basically working on some rules. So based on the rules, it may try to allow or disallow some communication over there. But that doesn't mean that just by installing firewall, our system can be secured. So we have to make sure our system is free of vulnerabilities, because there are also techniques to bypass the firewall and compromise the systems. So if the firewall regulations, the rules are not properly installed over there and the system is vulnerable, obviously the system can be compromised. Or what a hacker will do is the hacker will compromise one vulnerable computer and then try to use the compromised machine to attack different systems or different network in the same plane. Okay. For next session, if you want to prepare for additional stuff, it is going to be advanced exploitation techniques. So basically they will teach you more advanced techniques to do the exploitation. So from your side, the preparation will not be that much actually. So the session will teach you how to do furthermore exploitation. So today I was able to introduce you to some of the basic things only, like vulnerability scanning, how to find the vulnerabilities using Nmap, and one sample exploitation, right? So in the next session, we will teach you more advanced techniques to do the attack. Any other question? The recording will be shared with you guys after some time. The session will end in 5 minutes. So after that, we will upload the video and we will share the link with you all. Okay, so if you are running a vulnerable machine and you want to know, you can actually go to the task manager and then you can check whether any unnecessary processes is running there or not. You can also uninstall the unwanted programs or services, disable the services in your system. Okay. Yes, you can also use the event viewer to check what kind of events are running in your system. Okay. You can also run antivirus to check whether any malware program is running inside your computer or not. And in the task manager, if you recognize any unexpected or unknown program name or service name over there, you can actually end that. Yes, the attacks work on all operating systems and platforms. If your target machine is Linux, you can actually just go here and search for Linux actually. So you can just search for Linux, Ubuntu, whatever you are looking for, you can just search inside and you can pick and choose what is of your choice. Yes, Mac is also vulnerable. It is not like a particular operating system is free of vulnerabilities. If you want to know about the vulnerabilities, you can just go to the CVE details website. You can see that every operating system has got its own vulnerability of share actually. So you can actually go here, you can search for the products, whatever you want. It will tell you all the products, the operating system, everything is, whatever vulnerabilities are there, it will actually list it down over here. So you can actually look for it. You can just search inside over here and look for it. Basically, Windows operating system is unique. Apart from Windows, Android, Linux, Mac all use the same Linux kind of base. So if one platform is vulnerable, it will affect the other platforms as well. Any other questions? The recording will be shared to you guys by our marketing team. They will also share the link form for registering for the next week session. John the Ripper is actually a password cracking tool. So it is going to work offline. So there is no necessity that you have to be in the same network actually. So John the Ripper is basically used for cracking passwords. Password cracking tools is like there are two types of password cracking tools. One is like running on the target service itself directly. So you will specify which service, which IP address you are attacking. Some other password cracking tools like John the Ripper is going to run offline. So you have the password hash, you give the password hash as input. It will try to check whether it can determine the original password or not. We thank you all for joining the session today. So we will be ending the session now. You will all soon receive the recorded session URL together with the registration for the next week's session. So we will see you guys next week. Thank you.